Today, we're diving into one of the most influential and honestly, one of the most controversial books ever written on the subject of magic, Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy. But here's the thing, this wasn't just a book of spells, it was this incredible attempt to create a grand, unified theory of everything, centuries before modern science even began to try.
And Agrippa knew he was playing with fire. This wasn't some secret, hidden text. Not at first. He straight up admitted it in a letter. He knew that the church, the law, pretty much the entire establishment, saw this kind of knowledge as a direct threat. It wasn't just frowned upon, it was condemned, rejected, and forbidden.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question. What was in this book that was so radical? What kind of knowledge could send such shockwaves through the entire Renaissance world? What was Agrippa trying to tell everyone? To really get this book, you have to first understand the man who wrote it and the world he lived in. Because this wasn't about waving wands and chanting nonsense, this was a serious, intellectual attempt to map out the entire universe. So, forget any cartoon image of a wizard you might have. Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa was a true Renaissance man. I mean, the guy was a physician, a lawyer, a diplomat, and a philosopher, and he had this unbelievably ambitious goal: to figure out and map the hidden connections between every single thing in creation, from a pebble on the ground to the most distant star. Now, his entire massive system is built on this really elegant model of reality that he called the 3 worlds. And getting your head around this 3-tiered structure is basically the key to unlocking his entire philosophy. Okay, so first up, you've got the elemental world. This is the one we all know. It's the physical stuff, the ground under our feet, the air we breathe. But for Agrippa, a rock wasn't just a rock, and a plant wasn't just a plant. Everything was humming with these hidden properties, what he called occult virtues. Layered on top of that is the celestial world. This is the realm of the planets and the stars. Think of it like a giant cosmic engine that's always running. Its movements, its light, its very nature is constantly beaming down influence onto the world below, shaping everything from how a flower grows to the personality of a person. And at the very top, you have the intellectual world. You can think of this as the divine source code for the entire universe. It's the realm of pure ideas, of angels, and ultimately of God. All the power, all the meaning in the universe, it all starts here, and then it cascades down through the stars into our physical world. But, and this is the most important part, these 3 worlds aren't often separate dimensions somewhere. They are 3 layers of the same reality, all existing in the same space at the same time. For Agrippa, the divine was literally in the stone, and the power of the stars was in the plant. The secret was just learning how to see and work with those connections. Okay, so that's the model. But how could a magus, a philosopher, actually use these principles? Well, it all starts with understanding the hidden forces that are at play in the world right in front of us. For Agrippa, it all boiled down to 2 basic forces: sympathy and enmity. Sympathy is like a cosmic resonance. Things with similar natures attract each other, they amplify each other. Enmity is the total opposite, a natural repulsion. And some of his examples are fascinating, right? A lion being terrified of a rooster sounds bizarre to us, but in his system, it was a fundamental law of nature. And his book is basically this massive catalog of these occult virtues. Some of it is pure myth, like the phoenix. Some of it was probably based on misunderstood natural science, like the idea that an ostrich could digest iron. And some of it is just pure wonder. I mean, a tiny fish that could stop a massive ship in the water. For Agrippa, these weren't just weird stories. They were data points about the secret powers hidden inside of nature. So the natural world is full of these hidden powers. But how do you tap into that next level up, the celestial world? This is where we get into the real mechanics of Agrippa's magic. And this wasn't just guesswork. It was a precise science to him. Let's say you want to make a talisman to draw down the influence of Jupiter. Well, you couldn't just whip it up on a Tuesday afternoon. No. You had to wait for the exact astrological day and hour when Jupiter's influence was at its peak. You had to use a specific material, a white stone, that had a sympathy with Jupiter. You had to carve a very specific image. The whole thing was a formula, a kind of cosmic technology designed for a very specific goal. And you have to wonder what was really going on here. In a world before we had physics to explain the universe, was this a very logical attempt to find some kind of order in the chaos? A way to map out the patterns of the cosmos and maybe even exert a little control over your own fate? All right,
Let's go all the way to the top of the ladder, the intellectual world. This is where the true source code of reality is, and the tools you use to interact with this realm aren't physical at all, they're metaphysical.
You see, for Agrippa, the universe wasn't just empty space and matter. It was teeming with intelligence. Every planet, every element, every single nation had a corresponding angel or a spirit that governed it. Now, these weren't necessarily beings you would worship. They were more like cosmic administrators that were running the whole system.
And how did you communicate with these forces? Through names. In this worldview, a name isn't just a label. It's a container. It holds the very power and essence of the thing it describes. So to know something's true name was to have a direct link to its power. Words weren't just descriptive, they were creative. They could actually change reality.
So after going through the three worlds, the sympathies, the talismans, the secret names, we have to ask the big question. What was the point of all this? Why risk getting condemned by the church to build this incredibly complex system?
And Agrippa, in his own defense, he lays it all out right here. He wasn't some evil sorcerer trying to summon demons. He saw magic as a beneficial art. It was a tool to heal people, to protect them, to preserve life, and to bring good fortune. And, crucially, to do it all without offending God.
Because the ultimate prize, at the end of the day, it wasn't about getting rich or powerful. The true goal of the Magus was enlightenment. It was a deep philosophical quest to understand the machinery of the cosmos, to find our place within it, and ultimately to elevate the human soul back to its divine source.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. We look back at this now and we call it magic or superstition. But for a brilliant mind like Agrippa, living in a time that was desperate for answers but didn't have our modern tools, was this system of occult philosophy actually the most advanced attempt to understand the nature of reality itself? Was this, in a way, the science of its day?